This was a cold and calculated murder.
There's always a breaking point in an investigation.
The timeline of events didn't add up.
It was crucial we supported our family contact.
This case was the saddest case that I have ever dealt with in my whole service.
Jamie was a vulnerable little boy, as well as a funny little boy.
In my heart, I was hoping and praying he was okay and he'd come home.
Any murders are very, very serious, but the murder of a child is very emotive.
When I saw the small coffin coming towards me, it was sad to see he had the rest of his life to live, and it just was not fair. I was informed on the 24th of October 1997 that I needed to attend the Lavis home address. I was tasked to inform them the tragic news that the remains of their 8-year-old son, Jamie, had been found. From that moment, I became their point of contact. My name is Asif Hussain. I'm a former Greater Manchester police officer, and I was assigned as a family liaison officer, also known as a FLO, on the Jamie Lavis murder investigation. Family liaison officer is very, very important. They need to be in there straight away to advise them, because people don't know what to do. They're in such shock. You've got to gather information from the victim's family and at the same time support them in every way you can. That's the difference with being a uniformed police officer on patrol and being a FLO. You have to become a friend of the family. Jamie had been missing for around 8 months at this point. I will never forget delivering what we call a death message, and it stayed with me ever since. Hello, PCSN Graham Lane area office. Yes, sir. I'm aware about the 8-year-old missing boy, Jamie Lavis. Come to the office. Yes, of course I will. On the 24th of October 1997, a call came in advising us that clothing had been found, identified as that belonging to Jamie Lavis. It was 2 young children, and they were friends of Jamie Lavis.
They said they were approached by this fella. Seemed as though he wanted them to take them into the woods. The children became frightened and they run off. My name is Roy Rainford. I was the senior investigating officer in 1997 on the investigation involving Jamie Lavis. It was a missing from home at that time, but it was a missing from home of an 8-year-old child who was very, very vulnerable. Due to the information given us, we were directed to an area of Reddish Vale. It's a country park, but where Reddish Vale is, there's Reddish Vale Golf Club. It runs parallel with the park, but off the beaten track of that park, it becomes like a jungle. You can't walk through certain parts of that area without using 2 hands, climbing over broken pottery, over broken trees, pushing your way through bushes.
And Mr. Rainford said he was going to get the Pulsar team, the search team, the police dogs and divers to go to that location because there's a big river there.
I can remember that day well because it was raining heavily, and I knew that area where they were searching was a bit of a quagmire, and we had specialist search officers there. We had a system that anything was found, the exhibits officer would go and collect it to make sure it was dealt with properly, evidential-wise. We took the top 2 inches of soil off that area, and they found a number of bones, The search officers found a milk tooth and scooped up some clothing, brought it back to the police station, and there was a golf ball in the pocket.
My name's Kim Doyle, and in the 90s I was known as a divisional Crown Prosecutor in Greater Manchester. The clothing was taken back to the police station to be bagged and properly looked after because it had, huge forensic potential.
The exhibits officer came to see me, told me what he collected. It was all in a bag, and I had advised him to lay it out, dry it out, and we'd go down and examine it. Within a matter of minutes of him leaving me, he was back up, said he'd stretched the clothing, but he'd found a jawbone.
I remember him telling me that he was very, very shocked to find it.
I then got in contact with a forensic pathologist. He immediately identified it as belonging to a child between about 7 years and 11 years. So we'd found clothing which could be described by the family as similar to what Jamie was wearing when he was missing, and we found this human jawbone, a number of bones, and a milk tooth.
We were able to use the dental records then to identify Jamie.
To tell somebody that their 8-year-old son is not coming home is the saddest thing you could ever tell anybody.
Death messages are the worst message that any police officer can give to a member of a family. It's awful, but somebody has to tell them, whether it be a murder, whether it be an accident, whether it be a sudden death.
As an FLO, that's your job, to make sure they're aware of everything before the newspapers or the television report anything. They need to be made aware of it.
I got a phone call.
I went to tell them that we had recovered some remains and some clothing identical of that worn by their son, and that made me feel very sad, because all the hope that they had disappeared.
So I said, what is it? He said, we've found remains, human remains, a wax jacket, a Reebok tracksuit and one boot. I identified the clothes, Jamie's.
We showed Karen Lavis the remains in a white shoebox in the presence of Roy Rainford. That was very difficult. She said, "Where's the rest of him?" I think she said. That's what she said. And I said, I'm sorry, I don't know. We've searched everywhere. Really heartbreaking, really, really heartbreaking.
A couple of weeks before he went missing, me and Jamie actually went to the dentist and had teeth out. I'm Jane Lavis and I'm Jamie Lavis' sister. That's the only identifier that really they could find that was Jamie. It was his jawbone.
I just collapsed. I never got to say goodbye. I never got... Sorry. There was no hope left.
Once my mum and my nana came back from identifying the clothes and Jamie's jawbone, we all just crumbled.
They were devastated, broken-hearted, and I was broken-hearted.
I don't know how a parent ever comes to terms with the murder of the child.
This is now turned into a murder inquiry. I first met the Lavis family on the 5th of May 1997 when I was notified that their 8-year-old son had gone missing. In cases of people going missing, the family liaison officer is a supportive post and an informative post.
Jamie lived with his mother and his father. He'd got 2 older sisters an elder brother and a younger brother at that time.
There was Nicola, she was 16. Jane, who was about 13. John was about 11. And Scott was 4. It was 5th of May 1997, bank holiday Monday. And Jamie went out with his brother John. It was about, I'd say about 8:30, 9 o'clock. I shouted to say, your breakfast. John come in. I said, where's Jamie? He's over at Quick Save. I said, well, we go and get him. He said he's not coming in.
Jamie used to play out every day and used to go to Quick Save, Ashton Hall Road in Openshaw, Manchester, where he would help elderly people with the shopping baskets, and in return he would receive £1.
That was Jamie. He'd help anybody. He was so lovable. He constantly put his arms around me, kissed me on my cheek. I didn't get concerned or anything. I did at the night time when it got tea time-ish and he weren't in. So I just knew something wasn't right. Jamie wasn't a child who liked the dark. And this is what I couldn't understand. Where was he? Why hadn't he come home? Me and Nicola and Jane, John, we were knocking on Jamie's friends' doors, walking on the streets. We couldn't find him anywhere. It was like he'd disappeared off the face of the earth. We just didn't know what to do. So we rang the police at 10 o'clock.
I was a police officer on the beat as a community beat officer, dealing with members of the community and home watch. I was involved with a lot of families on my beat, and I used to help them out on a regular basis with domestic disputes and missing children. The day I got the call to be a family liaison officer, I was on patrol in police uniform. So I attended the police station, spoke to Superintendent Roy Rainford, who advised me to go home, get a suit and tie on, and attend the address of the Lavish family.
It was a missing from home of an 8-year-old child who was very, very vulnerable.
Jamie was hyperactive and he couldn't sense danger. Everybody assumed he was naughty, but he wasn't. He'd had assessments, he had ADHD.
We had to have eyes all over your body to keep an eye on him, because if he moved 1 minute, he'd be gone. Because that's the kid that he was. The slightest things distracted him and he was off.
We needed to ensure that child's safety, because at that time, everybody believed that Jamie was alive. Jamie Lavish lived in the Openshaw area of Manchester, on a main arterial road between a town called Ashton-under-Lyne and the Manchester city centre. It was on a major bus route.
When I turned up at the Lavish's house the first day, I paused, drove round the block several times, thinking, what's the first thing I'm going to say? What would I say to my wife if my son was missing? Knocked on the door. I just said, I'm really sorry about the disappearance of your 8-year-old son, and I will do everything to help you find him.
From that moment, he was like helping us and do whatever we needed to do.
The reaction from Mum and Dad was tears and also relief. I could see it in their faces.
For the next 9 days, there was intensive searching by the uniformed staff. There was dogs used, horses used, helicopter used, line searches.
The searching, like disused sheds and things like that, was heart-wrenching. Wondering, was he cold? Was he hungry? Did he have clothes? You block it out because you don't want to remember.
They couldn't speak because they were crying constantly.
It was scary, it was horrible, because I just had this feeling that something had happened to him.
When I see a family struggling, it obviously affects me. It's upsetting to see them going through a difficult time.
At first I felt a bit wary of him, of us, because the police was there, but then I got to know him and I felt more comfortable for him to be there.
And I told them, even though I'm a police officer, I'm their friend as well.
From that moment, obviously, that's how we've got attached to Asif, because he was the only one that I really spoke to out of everybody if I got uncomfortable with anything. He was there for us all the time.
With you being there constantly, you're constantly receiving information, and then you're passing it back to the information room who are dealing with the missing from home.
The FLO will go out and hopefully bring back pieces of the jigsaw puzzle, and it's down to the SIO and his management team to put them together and get the full story. At that time, I was becoming more and more concerned. He could have been injured, he could have been involved in an accident, or he could have died, basically.
This child still hadn't materialised. The police decided they needed to begin a much more thorough investigation into his disappearance.
We needed to make sure that everything was being done to return him to his family safely.
As a family liaison officer, I kept the Lavis family involved in the investigation of their son being missing. And I would tell them on the progression of the incident room who were looking for Jamie Lavis, especially that we were now making posters and distributing them to local shops. I became the point of contact for that family and for dealing with members of the press who were constantly knocking at the door. I also told the family that we're going to be news bulletins on the local television. I said, we're speaking to the TV people, Granada Reports, and we're hoping to do a TV appeal. Would you and John mind coming with me? I'll take it and I'll stay with you. And then if whoever may have Jamie sees you on the TV, it might help them when they see how distressed you are to release him and let him come home. And they both agreed to do that.
Now, Jamie's described as being small for his age. He's about 4 foot tall, and he wears clothes that are made to fit a 5 to 6 year old.
Please, just get in touch with the police. Everybody's waiting for him to come home.
Roy Rainford didn't leave any stone unturned, and I told them that. They were happy that the police were doing everything they could.
We was looked after, we knew we was comfortable, and if we needed anything or speak to anybody, we knew he was there to help us.
We kept getting sightings, daily sightings. They were saying, yes, I know Jamie, that's him. All the sightings are being investigated, other people are being interviewed. We did not, at that stage, believe that he'd come to any harm.
The longer Jamie was missing, the more I was finding things out from his family, from his friends. Once you get to know the family, it helps a lot because they start to trust you and tell you things which they may not have told the police that first came. The family telling me that a stranger had knocked on their door after seeing me drive off.
We got a knock on the door, and it was my sister-in-law who answered the door. And she said, who are you? He said, I'm just wondering, is it you what's got a little boy what's got missing? Did he happen to be wearing a dark blue Reebok tracksuit and a little wax jacket? So she brought him in the house. Said he had him on the bus that day.
Darren Vickers was a bus driver. He'd been employed by the bus company for about 1 month. He drove the 219 Dennis bus along Ashton Hall Road to Ashton. He told Karen that Jamie had been on the bus and that he may have been the last person to have seen him.
And he said, yeah, he was on my bus for 7 hours.
Karen and John absolutely delighted with that information. It gave them hope. Karen Lavis told me that Darren Vickers was going to come back the next day. I spoke to the SIO and said, what would you like me to do? He said, get as much information off this man as you can. I got to the house at 11:30 in the morning. At 12 o'clock, Darren Vickers walked in. He was about 5'7", medium build. He was renting a terraced house round the corner from the Lavis family. He lived there with his wife and 2 small children. He said he'd worked on the buses around a month. He said that Jamie Lavis got onto his bus, Ashton Hall Road, near to Quick Save supermarket, and that he drove him to Ashton, and he remembers him because he was only small. He said he then got off the bus at Ashton bus station, and that's where the bus turned round, and then he said he didn't see him after that. So I recorded his details, told him I'd be in touch. Darren Vickers was visiting the family home 2 or 3 times a week, and as the investigation progressed, it increased. He was there most days.
He was there every day. There wasn't a day where he wasn't there.
Vickers was in and out of the house, always out, searching for Jamie, taking the family with him.
Karen was telling me where they were going and what locations they'd been visiting.
Thought he was giving us some information we needed. But my 2 daughters, they had a feeling something wasn't right.
Family became so close to Darren Vickers that, you know, he'd turn up, he'd have dinners with them. Sometimes they'd have, you know, cups of tea with them. I mean, they just loved him. He was like a hero to them.
That became a real challenge, I know, for the family liaison officers who were working with the family to deal with.
I felt let down that they trusted this stranger more than me. I just kept on watching Darren Vickers. I wanted to know where he was going and the reasons for where he was going.
It wasn't just one thing that Vickers was doing, it was a multitude of things that was attracting our attention.
If you had any respect, would you stand him over to the nearest police station, just let the child go in, just let him come home. It's not in trouble, it's not nothing, it's just wanted.
Including the press releases that he was given, the press interviews he was given, without any notice to us. And of course the press doing the job, they loved it, but it wasn't helping the investigation.
Somebody somewhere knows where Jamie is.
He was always trying to control our investigation and the press, and he was certainly controlling the family.
Well, my dad wasn't very comfortable with him. My mum, she was trying to be nice like she is, and making me sure that he was to thank him for what he was doing with us.
I felt that Darren Vickers was manipulating the Lavis family. He was using them to gather this information for his own purpose. And I told Roy Rainford my thoughts. I said, I think he's #1 suspect, sir. That's really his motive.
Well, how could it be me? How could it be me involved in this when I'm trying to help the family? I'm the hero. It's not me.
I've got nothing to do with the abduction of James Lavis, and I've got the backing of the Lavis family, relations, everybody.
Darren Vickers became our prime suspect. He was arrested on the 27th of May, and we interviewed him over a period of about 2 days.
We look back when he first got arrested and think, why didn't we think like the police thought? You don't think like that. Any help when you've lost a child, you'll accept it.
He told us that Jamie had been on his bus up and down the arterial road from Ashton Underline to Piccadilly and back again.
I was coming back from Manchester and I said to him that I'm going to have to stop you back off now because this is my last run up.
But he was adamant that he dropped him off at the bus stop near to his home in Openshaw that same day. He then clarified he just got frightened that he was going to become involved in the inquiry as some sort of suspect, that we did believe that he had something to do with Jamie going missing. They call it the policeman's nose or whatever. He just had that feeling that he's not telling the truth. We didn't have enough evidence to bring charges, so we released him back into the arms of John and Karen, and they threw a party for him. And we were vilified within the press for arresting the wrong person, but We were getting stronger and stronger suspicions that he had something to do with Jamie's disappearance. We never, throughout the inquiry, relieved Asif from his duties as a floor. Asif was always, as far as I was concerned, at the centre because he knew the family. He'd got some sort of liaison with the family, even though they were not happy at that time with the police investigation. Yes, it was still a missing from home inquiry, but more and more we were leaning towards whether we were going to get this child back alive.
Darren Vickers arranged with Karen Lavis and John to move into the house. I thought it was astonishing. How weird for a grown man to leave his wife and 2 children, move in with another family around the corner. I was concerned.
We moved him into our house because we thought he was a friend.
It changed my role because they didn't want my support as much. Darren Vickers had now taken over control of the searches, and the children and John and Karen found him more important at that time, which made it difficult. I tried to stay professional at all times so they could see I'm a strong person. Around June 1997, John and Karen were expecting another baby, and in fact they asked Darren Vickers would he be the godfather. It just showed how much he'd manipulated that family into trusting him. I didn't tell Karen and John that I suspected Darren Vickers of being involved with the disappearance of their son, because I didn't want to upset them or frighten them or their children, and I just kept on watching what Darren Vickers was doing.
One of the younger members of the team suggested to us that Darren Vickers had a number of outstanding warrants on driving offences. I instructed him to find out where he was and arrest him on those warrants. He went to prison, I believe, for 10 weeks, which assisted our investigation. It put him out of circulation, so he couldn't interfere within the family and couldn't interfere with our investigation, try and manipulate the press. A friend of Darren Vickers informed us that Darren had told him that he hadn't dropped Jamie off at the bus stop near to Jamie's home on that day of the 5th of May. Darren Vickers had in fact taken Jamie on the bus back to the bus depot at Hyde. He'd then put Jamie in his own car and then taken him back to Openshaw and dropped him off near his home address. So again, that pointed us in the direction that Darren Vickers wasn't telling us the whole truth. The family were concerned that we couldn't find Jamie. They were beginning to suspect Vickers wasn't the champion that they believed him to be.
Asif Hussain just said, Karen, please just listen to us. Don't say anything around Darren Vickers. Always keep your phone where we can get to you. Keep it plugged in. And I said, right, no problem.
We're getting deeper and deeper into this, and it's becoming more and more apparent that we're not going to find the boy alive.
When I first went in for the role as FLO, the SIO, Senior Investigation Officer, said it shouldn't be for too long, because I thought we'd find Jamie safe and well within a very short period of time.
We've still got other lines of inquiry running. On the major line of inquiry was what was happening when Darren Vickers was driving his bus.
They were able to go back and recover footage from the bus station where the bus had been, to look for witnesses who'd been on the bus.
They were all giving us the same picture. Jamie was being allowed to run feral on that bus. They believed that the bus driver was his father. The way he was allowed to count money, he was allowed to squeeze into the driver's cab, and at the side of the driver while he's driving the bus. We'd even got a bus driver who worked at the same firm and informed us that he'd seen this young lad at the side of Darren Vickers and said the boy should never have been in that position. It led us then to believe he's grooming, at that stage, Jamie. Confirmation we got of Jamie on CCTV was at Ashton bus station, where he was talking on the 5th of May, the day he went missing, to Darren Vickers, the bus driver. Two young children were approached by Vickers to come and look for Jamie, who he then was still insisting that was missing from home. They were playing in an area at the side of the River Tame, and Darren Vickers showed them a photograph of Jamie and said he was looking for this missing boy. He pointed and said, "Oh look, I've seen him up in that area," and he was pointing to an area up in Reddish Vale, and then said to them, "Oh look, he's there." In fact, he was trying to get them to go into the undergrowth there, the jungle there.
These two young people knew something wasn't right and they run off.
But they luckily told the parents. They allowed us to speak to the children, so that gave us another area to search for Jamie. A number of Darren Vickers family members give us alibi to say that Darren Vickers was in a different part of Greater Manchester than where we suspected the area that he killed Jamie Lavis. They said he was at his mother's. This was untrue. We started to disprove the alibi and eventually finished up charging a number of them with conspiracy to pervert the course of justice. Now we've got enough evidence to charge him. His attitude on the bus and allowing Jamie to run feral on that bus gave us enough evidence, circumstantial evidence, to charge him with abduction, which doesn't mean that you have to grip the child and take him away. It's all to do without controlling the child. On the 14th of October, we arrested Darren Vickers for the offence of child abduction, and he was remanded in custody.
We didn't know why he'd been arrested and what he'd been arrested for. We just knew that Darren Vickers had been arrested. Jamie still wasn't been found. Jamie was obviously still missing.
I remember that we were going to take further advice about possibility of considering a murder case without a body. My memory tells me that there'd been one case where there'd been a potential prosecution for a murder without a body. And so it's incredibly difficult, but it wasn't long after that the remains of Jamie were found in Reddish Vale. I remember that from a prosecution perspective, that changed things completely, because all of a sudden we could now prove that in fact this child was dead.
A call came in that remains had been found along with clothing identified as that belonging to Jamie Lavis. Because we had a suspect in custody, I wasn't concerned for the family welfare as the danger side of it from Vickers. I was concerned for their welfare in a mental capacity and the distressful situation they were now under. I offered them advice on victim support, counselling for the children if they needed it, and if they needed to speak to me at any time, I was always available to support them for that.
We interviewed him again. He said that initially it was an accident. He'd had Jamie on his bus, he stamped on the brakes when he was taking him back up to Hyde, and that Jamie was stood up and he was knocked to the floor and he banged his head and he panicked. We could disprove that. The bus was examined. There was no damage. It was obviously false. We knew that that was not the case. We never found the skull of Jamie.
He just said his remains, it was his jawbone.
When we'd found the jawbone, because of the weather and the way that the jawbone had been exposed to the elements, they had grave difficulty in extracting the DNA, and it took till the 23rd of February 1998 before we got that final confirmation, definite positive proof that it was Jamie Lavis. The cause of death could not be ascertained at that time because of the state of the remains. So we just had to carry on without that information.
We were able to now gather everything in and present the case. Evidence that came to light during the course of the investigation included the interviews with the police, CCTV, and then forensics.
Mr. Rainford and the team and the Crown Prosecution Service all examined all the documents and everything and decided that there was enough to charge Darren Vickers with the abduction and murder of Jamie Lavis. On the 19th of June 1998, poor little Jamie Lavis was put to rest. I'd been with that family for at least 8 months. This was the first time I've ever attended a victim's funeral in 30 years police service. The small coffin coming towards me, I felt genuine sadness that poor little boy had lost his life at such a young age.
What I can remember of the funeral is not very much. I blocked it out because I don't want it to be real.
My mum didn't even realise it was Jamie. She kept saying it's not Jamie, it's a thief. Was reassuring our minds, saying that we'll get through it together, we'll all be there together.
The funeral was massive. The streets were lined going up to the church. I've never done it before, but I started writing poetry. One of the poems was read out. I think it was my oldest daughter what read it out for me. I'm not sure.
The trial of Darren Vickers began on the 2nd of March 1999.
It was a feeding frenzy for the press. Not only did it go national, it went international. You're always nervous because you want the trial to go well.
I didn't understand what a trial was at that age, obviously, but then I see it made us understand what was going on and why this was happening, to get justice for us and stuff like that.
I would attend court with them, pick them up every day, make sure they got there on time, and took them into a witness protection office, which keeps them away from Darren Vickers' family and friends.
I was trying to be strong for my mum. My mum was worse than my dad. She was that upset and distraught, wondering why he'd done it to my brother. We wouldn't have even got through the trial the way we were without a thief, or, to be fair, without any of the police officers.
They were posed various questions, some which were difficult.
I must have been on the stand for 2 days. It was like I was guilty of things they were saying to me. But I remember me being accused of sleeping with Darren Vickers.
They said, no, he was tricking us. John Lavis was accused by Darren Vickers that he was responsible for the murder of Jamie, which was absolute nonsense.
And the main thrust came from Vickers, who said it was everybody except him. They've gone through hell. They've gone through hell by losing the child and then through being lambasted and lied about in open court.
I was very proud of the family when they gave evidence. They gave it clear and concise. I spoke to Karen and John and said, listen, everything that's been said has been perfect.
As the prosecutor, you don't present the case, you're handing that over to the barristers who are going to present the case for you.
Jamie Lavis was on that bus for most of the day, and I think that Darren Vickers was supplying him with sweets He was letting him play around with the gear stick while the bus was moving. He'd planned it to keep Jamie on that bus until it got dark, knowing that Jamie was scared of the dark. He then offered to give Jamie a lift home in his own car after he'd parked the bus at the bus depot. Jamie said, "Why are you going there? I live down there." He said, "I've just got to do something. This is what I think has been going on." And when he gets to the golf club, him and Jamie walk across the golf course.
And he would probably have picked a golf ball up as a child does and popped it in his pocket.
They get to the forest area and Jamie's scared. And then Darren Vickers starts to sexually assault him. He strangled him to death and left him. His motive was sexual gratification.
That little boy must have gone through hell.
I found out in court that he was abducted, sexually assaulted, murdered and dismembered. Going through what my Jamie went through. He had his own children. Why do it? He's got to be sick. When the jury went out, part of me thought he was going to get away with it.
The family's there in the courtroom on the day of the verdict, and Vickers is brought up, was packed out, there was press outside, television cameras, radio, this tense atmosphere. There's always a tense atmosphere.
When the jury said, "We find him guilty," it was just elation.
We got found guilty. It was like whole new relief.
There's an audible gasp from the family, from people in the public gallery, and it's like a release.
I looked towards them and smiled. I said, "Justice has been done."
Part of us felt happy because we knew we were safe, for one, and part of us felt like, obviously, we had to understand then that Jamie wasn't coming back. It just made us all reassured and that it was all over now and we can put Jamie to rest.
Mr. Justice Forbes gave the sentence as life imprisonment, murder, with a minimum of 25 years.
Absolutely delighted with that sentence. 25 years without parole, that means no matter how well behaved he is, his sentence wouldn't be reduced.
And then there is a huge sense of relief that you know you've done your job.
I just want him kept inside. That's my wish. I want him kept inside. I'll know then he's never going to get out and hurt anybody else's family.
This case will stay with me the most because I have never dealt with such a case that the murderer of a young child moves in with the family and tries to take control and steal the limelight, if you like. Never seen anything like it. It impacted on me personally because it made me sad, because I cared. And I wasn't able to help them find their son alive. And I'll never forget any of the family.
I'm with my mum today, hopefully to see them again. My mum's been diagnosed with cancer. My mum can't talk, I have to be a voice.
Hi, Karen. Long time no see. How are you doing? Jay.
Hello!
Hiya. Come and join you.
How are you? Getting there?
Yeah, getting there, to be honest.
Never changed though, have you?
Nothing.
No. Never changed.
When I first came to the house as the FLO, I told you I was a family liaison officer and I was going to support your family throughout the whole of the inquiry. How did that make you feel?
Well, I was anxious and shy at first, but then we got used to you being there and we felt safe and secure with you being around us.
Good. It's because I cared for you. All of you.
This is from us all. These are my mum's words. Asif, we are very appreciative for everything you have done over the years as a family. Thank you for everything you have done all for us. Getting justice for Jamie will always be an uncle to us, Asif. Lots of love from Jane, Karen, Scott and Derek.
That definitely deserves a hug.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you for that lovely card and lovely words. Thanks, Karen. Thank you. After 10 years, I'm really, really proud and really, really pleased to see you doing well. Thank you for letting me see you again. And I'll always remember your family. I'm really proud that I was part of that investigation team and honoured to have met the family of Jamie Lavis.